So today we have Beekler and Becky Zimmerman, and they are going to be presenting about Play with a Purpose, being an effective play partner to your child. And so Carrie has worked with preschool-age children on the autism spectrum at CARD since 2007, and her roles have included classroom teacher, individual interventionist, coach, and provider of in-home parent training. And Becky has worked on various research projects since joining CARD in 2008. She's currently a research assistant and interventionist in the Early Achievements Classroom for toddlers on the autism spectrum. And she also provides parent training and in-home coaching. Both Becky and Carrie are master's candidates in early childhood special educations at the Johns Hopkins University, and they'll both graduate in 2012. So if you all got surveys, if you wouldn't mind giving them to me at the end, if you wouldn't mind turning your cell phones off, and you're free to eat or drink in this room. Thank you.
All right, so today we're going to talk to you about play and being an effective play partner with your child. We're going to talk about setting up the play environment, what that should look like, recognizing your child's play level, what kind of play you should be doing, choosing appropriate toys. There are some toys that are just going to allow you to do a lot more than others. And then we're going to talk about using routines and how to use routines in play. Okay, so just a few tips with setting up your play environment. This is a picture of kind of what can happen if there's an overwhelming play environment. This kid's actually asleep. There's just a lot going on. There's a lot of toys out. There's a lot of pieces to the toys everywhere. It's just kind of crazy. And this can happen, but if you can prevent it, it can be helpful. So just before you play, just take a look at your toys and see what toys you have and choose the ones that you want to play with. Ones that you know the child plays with a lot or enjoys playing with. And if you can, move other extraneous toys out, especially toys that have a lot of pieces. If you know you're probably not going to play with them, just put them away. And then keep related toys together, and that just means keep your little people next to or near your bus so that you can really quickly grab any toys that you could use together. You can just kind of quickly grab them and play with them and not have to go searching around for pieces and things that you may need.
And a lot of kids on the spectrum are very visual. So if you take a look at your play area, it should make sense. It should look inviting. Things are together. Here's a toy, I can play with that, all the pieces are there. And if you're overwhelmed as the adult, your child's probably overwhelmed too. If you're tripping over things and can't find things, that's the way they feel. So we're going to talk a little bit about play levels, and all of you have a handout that really talks about what each of these mean. So these go basically in order. You will see some overlap sometimes. A child may kind of be in between levels or something like that, but generally all children go through play in these specific stages. So the first type of play that all children do are what we call cause and effect. So this is where the child pushes the button and something happens. Pop-up toys, generally anything that has batteries falls into this level. Even if it's the iPad and they're doing an educational game on it, it's still, in terms of play level, a cause and effect toy. They're pushing the button and something's happening. There's not that much room for engagement with other people in this level and with some of these toys. It can just make it a little bit harder. If they're just pushing the button over and over again and they're getting lights and music and sound, that's sometimes hard for us to compete with when we're trying to be their play partner.
So after cause and effect, you'll see the ins and the outs, and there are varying stages of difficulty within this stage. This is kind of when you see kids putting pieces of something or pieces of a toy in only one place. So the chicken puzzle piece only goes in the picture with the chicken. Like you can't put the cow where the chicken goes. Everything has a specific place. But the main action is still the action of putting in. So shape sorters, like I said, puzzles, those are all examples of ins and outs. This can also be just a random container that everything just kind of goes into. And also like ball toys, ball chutes, basketball hoops, nesting cups are all toys that you'll see used within the ins and the out stage. And also something to note is that at this stage, dumping everything out comes before putting it in. So, dumping out is a little easier, so you'll see that beforehand. That can be really frustrating if your child just walking around dumping everything or taking everything out, but developmentally that's kind of the sequence that it happens. You'll see that typically first before you see the kids able to put in.
So after the ins and outs comes building. And this is when pieces are put together, they're stacked. Kind of the main difference between the building and the ins and outs is that you can really start to make something. You can make a tower, make a tunnel, just kind of putting different pieces together. Legos, any type of block falls into this category. If you have the shapes from the shape sorter and they're done putting in and out, if they start stacking those up, that's in this building level too.
And then after building comes confining, and this is really when children start using toys together. So they'll take a piece of play cake and they'll put it on a plate, or they'll take a car and put it down a ramp, or push it on a pretend road. So this just like really an emergence of pretend play is when that's when you know that kids will start kind of heading towards pretend play, is when they are using toys together.
And this, the combining too is like any of those sets that you buy. So it comes with like a tractor and animals and a barn and
like those little people
all
sets
the things that go together. That's really at this stage. And as Becky said, this combining stage really starts opening the doors for pretend play. So like putting the piece of cake on the plate, they may not be completely pretending to eat it yet, but they're really on their way because they know that the cake goes on the plate. There's a little bit of pretend there. But when they do start pretending, the first kind of pretend that children do is pretend on themselves. So they're going to do things to themselves before they do it to others, which we'll talk about in a minute. But they also are most likely to start pretending with activities that they see done every day. So the first type of pretend is something like pretending to drink out of a cup, or pretending to eat play food, because they eat and drink multiple times every day. They may pretend to brush their teeth or brush their hair if that's something that they're doing every day. If you're someone that vacuums the house every morning, you might see them pretend to vacuum. It's those things that they see all the time that they're going to start pretending. And then you see them doing some of those things that you don't do as often. Maybe pretending to talk on the phone. If you're somebody that talks on the phone a lot, that might happen earlier, but pretending to do like household chores maybe might not happen as often.
And then, like Carrie said, after the kids start to pretend on themselves, you'll see them extend that action to others. And a lot of the time you'll see them do this with actual people before they'll do it with like a puppet or a character, a doll. So this would just be, taking a play fork and pretending to feed mommy, or taking a brush and pretending to feed Elmo's hair. It's just the same pretend quality of those, a lot of the times, common actions that they see, but they're just extending it to another character or human being.
And then after they're kind of, pretending with that fork to feed everybody, the next step in pretend that we're going to talk about today is substitution. So that's where they pick up that block and they use that as the fork and start, feeding. Or that block then may become a cookie that they're giving to you or Elmo or somebody. So they start using toys as other things. And then kind of to take it a step further, in the substitutions is when they start pretending without anything there. So they pick up a imaginary fork that's not actually there. They take a bite of the pretend applesauce that isn't there, and then feed that to you or Elmo, or they have a tea party or something like that. So they start using things that our others or don't exist. So it's a really quick run through of all the different play levels. They all kind of have some things that are a little bit easier and some things that are a little bit harder in them, but that's kind of an overview. So you can think about where your child plays, and think about where they play if you just kind of step back and watch. So independently, which level do they prefer to play at? And then think about the level of play that you can kind of get them to. So they might play at a higher play level with you there really supporting them through it. And so, back to that real quick. So maybe they can do ins and outs by themselves, no problem. But when you come over and you play with them, they do start building. So you would kind of, when we're talking about thinking about your child's play level, you would want to do kind of the ins and outs and building with that.
And kids that are typically really good imitators too, they're the kids that when they kind of play on their own, they might choose like the shape sorters or the puzzles types toys, but when you play with them, you can really get them up to a higher, even like a pretend play level because they'll imitate what you're doing. So the kids that imitate really well, they're the kids that you really have to kind of watch for and kind of take a look at them first and see what they do on their own, because they can be the tricky ones that you can kind of miss some of the toes.
So we want, talking about that setting up the play environment, we want to pick a couple toys and we want to pick the right toys. So in order to pick the right toys, you really have to think about what play level your child's at. And again, so thinking about what can they do by themselves and what can they do with help, and kind of pick toys that you can do both with. Pick toys that are going to be at the right level, and pick toys that your child enjoys, because we do want it to be fun for everybody.
And also, if you can, kind of think about when you're choosing toys in the first place, try to pick ones that you can use in multiple ways. When you're in the aisle at Walmart or Target and you're looking to buy a new toy, kind of think about, okay, with this toy I can, put it in and take it out, but other than that, really, what else is there that I can do? So just do a little bit of a toy brainstorm before you choose toys. And then also that kind of goes along with picking toys that you can use for multiple play levels. Thinking about toys like a dump truck can be used at multiple play levels. Things can go in the dump truck, people can go in the dump truck can hit a tower. So that's kind of a toy that can bridge play levels. And then also toys that can be easily combined. Can also be good to kind of afford kids that are kind of spanning multiple play levels.
So we're going to do a quick little game with everyone. We're going to show you a couple toys, and we want to know which toy you guys would rather play based on the slide we just went over.
Okay, so I have a push-top spinner. There's little ladybugs and flowers in there, but this part stays closed, and obviously you push and they spin and go around.
So I also have a spinner, push top, same thing, push it, spins around. The only difference is that I can do this and take these guys out and put them back in. So which one would you guys rather play with? Which one? Right, and why? Right, so there's multiple levels. There's cause and effect, there's take out, there's put in. Once the balls come out, you can use them with different toys. You can put these in the dump truck. There's just so much more that this one allows you to do, both with play levels and with using it multiple ways. All right, so again, we both have blocks. These are Legos. Stack them up, I can take them out.
And I have these bigger cardboard blocks. They come in multiple sizes and colors.
Which one would you guys rather?
I go with the cardboard.
Yeah. What do you think and why did you choose that?
I think that those are more conducive to all kinds of play, since they can be used in a lot of different ways, whereas that's a little bit more vertical.
Yeah, and these can Yeah, like you're saying, they can be, there's a little bit more restrictive. These can be used as a road or a tower, or you can make a garage or a house or a train track. These just have a little bit more versatility since they go together in multiple ways versus kind of Legos or Duplos where you kind of stack them up and then you're kind of like, okay, what can I do now?
If your child is at the beginning of the building level, part of the fun of building is crashing at the end, right? So you build these up, they're lightweight, they're cardboard, you crash into them, they go all over. These, you crash it goes not very exciting. So they're good for the beginning levels of building because they can be more fun, but then, as Becky's talking about, once you get more into that building level, there's just so much more that you can do with that.
So I have a pretend pizza. We obviously have the pizza pan. The pieces are Velcroed together so they stick when you put them together. And then I also have a pizza cutter and a spatula that go with this toy.
So very similar. I have a little apple pie, little tray. These pieces also Velcro together. And since it's an apple pie, these little guys come off. You can take the apple. They fit, little pieces fit inside. Similarly, a little spatula and a little knife. So which one would you guys rather play with?
You'd like the pizza better?
I think she
What you think
I think she would.
your child specifically? Okay, okay. So you were pointing to apple pie. Yeah. And those are both actually right because like you were saying, if your child is a pizza eater and they love pizza, then yeah, you're probably going to get the most out of choosing the pizza. But like thinking of play level, there's a lot of play levels within this toy.
If your child's at the in and out level, you can take these top pieces off and put the apples in and out. It all Velcros, so you can put the apple together and cut the apple. You know, the putting together kind of in that in and out building level, putting it together. So you can use this one for some of those lower level play and still have them, you know, be playing with food. It's just in a slightly different way. It just allows you to do a little bit more with it.
And also something just to keep in mind too, and this is kind of the more nitty gritty of when you're picking toys, but when you're thinking about toys, you also want to kind of keep in mind the vocabulary that you're going to be using with this toy. And while we can talk about pizza cutters, I mean, they're really only going to use a pizza cutter with a pizza, whereas a knife is going to be, well, not used by the child, but they're going to see a knife used with more types of food, and they're going to see you spread things on bread with a knife, and so that vocabulary words affords a little bit more kind of versatility in terms of what the child would see it used for versus they're going to see pizza cutter when you eat pizza. So when you think of it, you're like, oh, I'm going to get coffee, but when you break it down step by step, there's a lot of steps in this routine. So obviously this is a more advanced routine. But one thing to also kind of note is step number 11, wait. That can be something that can be really hard to do when you're playing because you want the kids to actually play with the toys. And you think like they're not doing anything, you're like, oh my gosh, they're not playing, I have to jump in, I have to make them do something. Whereas sometimes with some kids, if you just give them a little bit of time and just wait them out, they'll do something on their own. So a lot of the times that can be helpful for us as teachers and parents and providers to just, in your mind, think of, in this play routine, my step is to wait. And when you think of it that way, it can help a little bit. You know that, okay, whatever they do after this step, I'm going to just chill out for a minute and just see what they do.
Something just kind of generally about routines is some of these really have to happen in a certain order and others don't. You know, if I skip number 11 and I push the button and then move my coffee, I'm going to have a huge mess to clean up. You you can't go out of order there. You're also not going to be able to get the coffee without putting the K-cup in. There's certain things that just have to go in order. However, I could have put my creamer in before my sugar, and that would have been okay. Everything would have turned out the same. So there are certain steps that are flexible, and some that just, it wouldn't work if you didn't do it in the order.
And some of these steps too are easier than others. You know, to shake the sugar packet is a little easier than trying to like tear it open. Pushing the button can be an easier step. So just kind of keep in mind too that there's more simple and more difficult steps within routines. So if you're really working with a child that's kind of emerging interest in toys and kind of just starting out, giving them those steps that you know they can already do kind of helps make them successful, and also will keep them engaged with you longer when they are doing something that they can do and they can participate in a way that they know how, and it's not too difficult for them.
So now we're going to talk about kind of using these routines as tools to help your child play. So we're using the routine, the term as a way, the steps that kind of plan out what you're going to do with the toy. And so we want to make play fun. We want fun play routines. We want to let your child have a say, though. That's really important, following his lead, him or her, letting them pick the toy and deciding what to play with. And if you've set up your environment, you've put out toys that are at the right level that you kind of want them to play with, and then they can pick which toy that they want to play with, because the right ones are kind of sitting out already. And so one of the best ways to make sure you're following your child's lead is just by imitating them. So they do something, you pick up that toy or a similar toy, and you do something just like what they did. And that way you know they're following their lead, and then to get that routine started, you do that imitation and then you add a step. So if they're at kind of a combination level and they pick up a car, drive the car, you drive the car, and then you think, okay, we want to do combinations, what else can I bring over? So you maybe push your car and then put a block in. They put a block in, you put a block in. Now you've started this routine of putting all the blocks in, then they can continue driving the car, you can dump them out, the blocks can go places, opens up, several different routines that you can do with blocks and cars, depending on what you guys have been playing with.
So play routines, kind of the ABCs of play routines are that every routine should either have a name or a starter, and a starter can just be like a phrase that you say, it can be an action, and this can be something that either you do or your child does. So, if you have some sort of routine where you make silly car noises and you go vroom, and they come up to you and they have a car in their hand and they say vroom, you're going to know that they want to do that routine or they want to do that silly game with the car. The middle you really want it to look like turn-taking back and forth. That can be a skill that takes some time to develop. It really, taking turns kind of requires a certain level of trust that if the child knows if you're going to use their toy, that you're going to give it back. They also kind of need to know that it's going to be balanced. If you take a turn, it's not going to be all of a sudden only the teacher or only mommy or only daddy taking the turns. They're also going to get a chance to have a chance to do something with the toy. And then an ending to a routine, again, can be a phrase, it could be an action, just something to let your child know that it's not going to happen again. And this could even be a verbal warning and just saying, okay, this is the last time. Or it could be if you're doing some sort of like tickle game with a puppet or with little people, if you're tickling and then at the end you want it to be finished, you can just give like a big hug or something different than the light pressure of tickles to kind of signify, okay, it's over. And a lot of times the deep pressure can be calming. So just something different so the child knows, okay, it's over.
And then routine should be done in the same way or a similar way every time. And we want them to really be repeatable and predictable. And that kind of goes back to what Becky was saying about the end. Tickle games can go on forever. They happen the same way, and they're really easily repeatable. Once you kind of get to that end point, you've kind of brought yourself back to the beginning again. So, you know, I'm gonna get you, and they run, and you tickle them, and then they get up and they run again. So you've started all over again. And so that's important that they are repeatable and predictable, and that's why you need that ending to show them, like, it's not gonna happen again this time. But we want this done in a way that it's really clear to your child what's gonna happen. We want them to have a clear idea of what's coming so that they have clear expectations, and we also want them to know kind of what you're expecting of them. So the more clear things are to them, and the more repeatable and predictable it is, the more they can participate in that routine.